Give them a shot to do what?
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid, and you're listening to the Shy Kid podcast, brought to you by Give Us a Shot Network. So give us a shot, hit that like, hit that follow, hit that share button to everybody you know and love who loves Chicago sports content or just content in general. We do WNBA, NBA playoffs is right around the corner, MLB, NHL, and everything above the moon. We have the NFL draft 7 days away. We will be there covering Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears, #1 overall, and the entirety of the NFL draft. With that being said, appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate everybody being here. Today is April 18th, 2024. Shout out to everybody tuning into the pod today. Shout out everybody who got through the long week. Tomorrow's Friday. We got a lot to talk about. The Chicago Cubs West Coast trip officially concludes. And we took 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 series. I kind of predicted 2 out of 3, but it didn't go down the way I thought. I thought we would lose against Arizona. We end up beating Arizona 2 games in 3. The only series we lost was against the San Diego Padres. And some might even say if you don't blow that 8-0 lead in game 2, you're looking at a team that took all 3 series in the West Coast trip. That's crazy. So the Cubs are on a tear right now. Obviously, when we look at the Chicago Cubs right now, there was a come to Jesus moment in the San Diego trip. And I think the Bats, went from starting the year at an all-time high and an all-time consistent level against the Rangers and the Dodgers and the Rockies. And then they kind of came down just a little bit. Unfortunately, man, there was a lot of things that happened in that San Diego series that just didn't go well. And that's where we're going to start off today. Really talking about the West Coast trip as a whole. We're going to get into our good, bad, and ugly of the trip as a whole. But as of right now, we're going to focus on San Diego. Fernando Tatis Jr. calls game in game #1 in horrible fashion. The Chicago Cubs lose this game. And it's one of those things where, you look at it for what it is. And you say to yourself, it's understandable. It's understandable that a team that just swept the Rockies, that just beat the Dodgers in a 3-game series, are going to lose some games. But this was one of those games that you just can't lose. You are up 8-0. There is no excuse whatsoever to why the Chicago Cubs lost that game. Obviously, they come back the next day, win 5-1, and that's perfectly fine. Winning the next or losing the next game 10-2. A lot of inconsistencies offensively, and the bullpen just did not look great. The starting rotation didn't look great whatsoever. Obviously, losing Justin Steele in the Texas series, not having Jameson Taillon in the beginning of the year. You're throwing Ben Brown into the mix. Javier Assad was phenomenal in game #1. You're up 8-0. You are up 8-0. Javier Assad just threw a gem. I believe he almost tied his career strikeouts with 7 Ks on the day. You're so happy for him. You're so proud. And then they just absolutely implode. There's no other word to use. They implode and they lose this series to Fernando Tatis Jr. and the San Diego Padres. And that's completely understandable. These things happen. We're not going to sit here and act like that's the end all be all for the 2024 season, but it's definitely a narrative that we saw through the 2023 Cubs, an offense that was inconsistent, a team that couldn't hold the lead. Definitely something in the David Ross era that we just continued to see time and time again. And you don't want to see these things happen under Craig Counsell. And why I'm so excited to talk about the West Coast trip today is because the way they bounced back against Seattle and Arizona, and the way they're going into Wrigley tonight to face off against the Miami Marlins. I'm really excited for this team, and I'm excited to see how they continue to develop. But with that being said, you look at what the Cubs were able to do, and you look at the way they went about it. And I think there's a lot of different conversations right now about Craig Counsell as a manager. And I think he's been great for the Chicago Cubs organization. I don't think there's a single thought in my head that says that maybe Craig's a little in over his head. And that's exactly where you want to be right now. And I know that's an obvious statement. It's Craig Counsell. He's a former manager of the year winner, pardon me. But that's how it was last season. We thought David Ross was a little bit in over his head, and we didn't know if he was going to be able to have consistent play, consistent lineups, and just the best version every single day of what we could get out of the Chicago Cubs roster. And that's what we got, man. I'm excited to talk about this team throughout the year. Obviously, game one, Javier Assad versus Yu Darvish, the Cubs light him up, and you look at it from Javier Assad's perspective, and it's like, the ass man is doing his job, and you love to see it. An ass man shove day is probably my favorite day of the week. Ben Brown gets the second start, and the Cubs win. He got his first win as a starter, which was great, against Joe Musgrove, and Christopher Morel with the grand slam, which was phenomenal. I mean, and a lot of people thought Germ and I from Germ Edwards, from Give Us a Shot Network, him and I talked about it. Should Christopher Morel apologize for going like this at home plate before he stepped out of home plate? Like, come on, bro, you're soft. Get over it. It was fun, man. It was exciting. And then game three, here comes Kyle Hendricks. And Kyle again, having a really rough season thus far, man. An over 12 ERA. There's no real way around it. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But he goes up against Dylan Cease, the former Chicago White Sox, now turned San Diego Padre. So we're very familiar with Dylan, former Chicago Cub prospect, somebody that I always wanted to remain a part of this organization. Would love to have Dylan a part of this rotation right now. And it would be really interesting to see what happened. But let's get into the Seattle series. The Chicago Cubs take 2 out of 3 games in Seattle. Shota Imanaga was the only loss on a Shota Shove day. Or no, the Cubs won that game, but I lost because I bet that Shota Imanaga would have 5 Ks on the day. He only had 4. Very, very upsetting. The Cubs won that game. Jordan Wicks got a little lit up in that game. I can't lie to you. And then obviously Shota Imanaga absolutely dealt up until the later innings. And then you look at it for what it is, and you understand that, Javier Assad, we're not going to put too much into this. Can he have success against the Seattle Mariners offense? And he did. And he did. And it was great. You're looking at that for what it is and understanding what the Cubs could potentially be in the near future. Javier Assad is somebody right now that I'm going to continue talking about, who we saw out of this lineup. When you look at it for what it is, talking about the team as a whole, there's a lot of ups and downs. Nico Horner, a lot more downs. Dansby Swanson, a lot more downs. Michael Busch is excelling up. You have guys like Seiya Suzuki excelling up. And one of the more unfortunate instances that happened in the Seattle series is we lose Seiya Suzuki. Seiya Suzuki leaves the game. Very unfortunate. He is now on the, I believe, 60-day IL, if I'm not mistaken. He will be missing at least the next month with a oblique injury that kept him out of spring training in the beginning of the 2023 season that he suffered in the World Baseball Classic with Team Japan before he won a championship with Shohei Ohtani and company. But same injury Seiya Suzuki suffered last year. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But the Seattle series was very impressive. It was very impressive to see this team go out there, take 2 games out of 3. It's one of those things where I thought Castillo was going to be the game that we lost, the final game of the series. And we absolutely dominated. So to see that happen, to see this team go out there and fight the way they did, it was just exhilarating. It was just a lot of fun to see them get after it. And I want to start off the next topic. We're flying through this West Coast trip, and then we're obviously going to get into the nitty gritty of what the episode is going to be about. But the Arizona trip, the Seattle trip mixed with the Arizona trip. Michael Busch, first Cubs rookie since 1901 to have 4 consecutive games with a home run, said that's not good enough. I'm going for the record. 5 straight games. Cinco juegos. The man is a dog. Hey, it's Bush League, baby. It is the Bush League. We are not afraid to talk about it right now. Michael Busch is your NL Rookie of the Year candidate as of today. I'm super excited for him, man. I mean, he has been absolutely dominant. He has been a force at the plate, batting over 320 on the year with 6 home runs. Give Us a Shot was there for his first home run as a Chicago Cub against the Los Angeles Dodgers just a couple weeks ago. That was super fun, and he's just been on a tear ever since, man. Great defense at first base. He's not been a liability whatsoever. We had questions about those, such as Matt Mervis and company, to see how they would continue to develop defensively. We really didn't know if we were going to have to DH Michael Busch, if he can play the position, or we'd have to put Cody Bellinger at first base. But he's filled in very nicely, and I love what we're seeing right now. This Arizona trip, I mean, it was exactly what we thought it was going to be, and I'm very excited to say that this was the series I thought the Cubs were going to lose. I thought we were going to take 2 out of 3. I thought we were going to beat Seattle. I thought we were going to beat San Diego, but Arizona, they just went to the World Series, high-powered offense. Didn't know if Jordan Montgomery would be back. for us to come out and win the way we did. And honestly, we could have swept them. We could have swept them. Let's get into it. The Cubs win yesterday 5-3. They win game one 3-2. But the real conversation here, man, is game two. I want to get into it, man. It's so frustrating. It frustrates the fuck out of me. Pardon my language, but I can't continue to have these conversations. Kyle Hendricks gets the start on the bump. Nico Horner is absolutely phenomenal offensively. He's finally coming out of his shell. Nico Suave, he's doing it, man. I mean, I'm exhilarated to have him a part of this offense again, for him to come out of the slump at the slow start this season that he had. This is a Gold Glover of 2023, a guy who's going to hit over 285 every single year. So to have him a part of the roster, to have him a huge part of this lineup right now, you just love to see it, man. And I'm excited to see how he continues to develop. But the Cubs are down. When they finally climb back, they make it. It's what, 4-1, and now the Cubs climb back. It's 5-4. Now it's 5-8. The Cubs are down again. Luke Little blows it. Daniel Palencia blows it. Kyle Hendricks blows it, and it's like, man, the Cubs just keep climbing back. It's now 8-all, and now the Cubs are up 11-8, and here it comes, bottom of the 10th. Cubs lose 12-11 in a walk-off when you had the lead several times in this game. That's one of those instances where it's like Adbert Alzolay blows the game again. And, we have these conversations all the time. Craig Counsell said from the beginning of the year he wasn't going to name Adbert Alzolay the everyday closer immediately off rip in spring training because he wanted to see if he earned that role. Now, I think by committee, he won between Hector Neris and Yency Almonte and Carl Edwards Jr., Mark Leiter Jr. and company. Also, shout out Mark Leiter Jr. His little brother Jack Leiter just pitched for the Texas Rangers today. Didn't do too great, but both brothers. So really cool to see them go after it. They're the only two brothers in baseball right now in the major leagues, if I'm not mistaken, from a pitching perspective. I believe Ronald Acuna Jr. and his brother is going to be coming up very soon for the New York Mets organization. Shout out Michael Powers. But yeah, man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for what it means for a guy like Hayden Wesneski to come back up and absolutely dominate. Like, that's what you need. You know what I mean? Like, here's where I'm at right now. And we're going to talk about it in a little bit. But, we're going to do our segment, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we're going to be completely honest about Kyle Hendricks, but I would rather see Hayden Wesneski right now, who pitched 4 innings yesterday and was phenomenal in the Cubs win. He held it down. He really did. So shout out to Hayden. Obviously, they bring down Luke Little and Daniel Palencia. The Chicago Cubs bringing up Hayden Wesneski and another arm acquired from the New York Yankees. And obviously Jameson Taillon's coming back tonight. He's on the bump for the first start of the year at Wrigley Field. We'll see what happens, see how deep they let him go. Let's get into that, though. Conversations. Cubs injuries. Seiya Suzuki, obviously the biggest name right now, next to Justin Steele. Justin Steele will obviously be returning at some point during May with a hamstring injury, left hamstring injury. Then you have Seiya Suzuki with an oblique injury that he had last season to start the year, and now he has it again. Definitely a huge hitter right there. I mean, this is a guy who had the hottest start out of anybody on the offense, anybody on the team. Batting over 300, several home runs on the year, huge clutch runs. Just great performance all around, and his defense looked impeccable. So, it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate to lose Seiya. Obviously, we already know what it means to lose Steele this early on. We lose him in game one. Patrick Wisdom, who was having himself a day in AAA Iowa for the Des Moines, Iowa Cubs. He was in the outfield, which I thought was interesting. He's primarily a third or first baseman. To have him in the outfield, it's kind of interesting to see if maybe the Cubs will tinker with that when he's ready to come back up with Seiya Suzuki. They bring up Alexander Canario. We haven't seen much of him yet. He got his first start of the year the other night. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then obviously, you have a situation right now where you don't know what's going to really happen with Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks is probably the really big one right here that I don't know because of injuries what's going to happen when Justin Steele and Jameson Taillon come back. Are you going to keep Ben Brown and Javier Assad up, or are you going to DFA Kyle Hendricks? And that's really our next topic, man. I want to get into it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to start off with the good. Michael Busch's arrival. Michael Busch's arrival. The Chicago Cubs traded top 10 prospect Jackson Ferris, left-handed pitcher, to the Los Angeles Dodgers, along with an outfielder named Hope, who we didn't know much about. So that's completely okay. Just a double-A guy that they threw in there. If he ends up being a Hall of Famer, so be it. We didn't see it happening anyways. Michael Busch comes to the Chicago Cubs organization after being blocked by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, and company obviously are in the way, so it makes sense. Cubs have a very similar situation right now with Owen Casey, Pete Crow Armstrong, and all the outfielders that we have. We're packed with Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki, and Ian Happ, so it's hard for guys to get an opportunity. So it's understandable. We've also seen that happen with Eloy Jimenez back in 2017. We've seen that happen with so many other players, such as Dylan Cease with the Chicago Cubs organization. So, nonetheless, man, let's get into it. Michael Busch on the year is batting .317 with 6 home runs. He has been phenomenal. He has 13 RBIs on the year compared to 7 in last season in less at bats. The man had 72 at bats with the Los Angeles Dodgers last year. He had 7 hits or 7 RBIs, 12 hits, and he batted .167. In 60 at bats, he has 10 runs, 19 hits, 13 RBIs, and he is batting 317, pardon me, with 6 home runs on the year, 5 consecutive home runs in each game. He's been great, and one was against his former team in the Los Angeles Dodgers to start his Cubs career. So, I mean, what we've seen out of Michael Busch thus far, this is somebody that I believe is going to be an NL Rookie of the Year candidate. He is going to be the franchise first baseman for the Chicago Cubs. Defensively, there were a lot of questions if they would have to put Cody Bellinger at first base and DH Michael Busch, but he is coming to the task. I mean, it's a tall order to fill in Anthony Rizzo's shoes, but he's filling them very well, swimmingly. I mean, swimming. He is in there like swimwear, baby. He is doing it. So shout out to Michael Busch for being great. That is the good from what we've seen from this West Coast trip in the 2024 season thus far for the Chicago Cubs. Now, the bad for the Chicago Cubs. Let's talk about the bad. Let's get into it. Who's been bad? We need to talk about the injuries of the Chicago Cubs. That is everything right now. That is where we're at. That is the conversation. I understand normally the good, the bad, the ugly, we pick players, but we kind of just put them into a group for this fishbowl. The bad is the injuries. Justin Steele, Patrick Wisdom, Jamison Tyone, Seiya Suzuki. I mean, Julian Merriweather just got put on the 60-day IL. I mean, there's just so much bad with what's going on with the Cubs organization from an injury standpoint right now. I understand we just got Jamison Tyone back, but man, I mean, it's been rough. It's been rough. You know, you're still missing you're still missing Justin Steele. You're still missing Seiya Suzuki. You're still missing all these other players from Julian Merriweather, and you don't know what's going to happen with Kyle Hendricks, and there's just so many questions, and it's tough, man. It really is tough. You don't know when Patrick Wisdom's coming back. Um, I'm just circling it now. We've said it a million times. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Mike, hurry up. I know you're tired of hearing me talk about it, but the injuries have been horrible for the Chicago Cubs team right now. And even though they're prevailing through and they're still taking a series and they're taking 2 out of 3, and arguably they would have took 3 out of 3 if they just didn't blow an 8-0 lead. Thank you, Kyle Hendricks and Luke Little. But I think at the end of the day, and Adbert, you're not safe either. At the end of the day, though, you look at it for what it is and you understand that, this Cubs team, when they get healthy, are going to be a force to be reckoned with. They're winning games now without a healthy lineup, without their ace, without one of their best relievers. So for them to be in the situation that they're in right now, to still be having success, to still have a winning record of 11-7, you love what you're seeing from this organization. And when you look at the NL Central as a whole, we're 11-7. The Brewers are in first. We're in second. They're only 11-6. We've just played one more game than them. Now we're going to play against Miami, a struggling Houston Astros team as well. After that, Cubs could end up, being in first place by the end of next week, I would say. So, I mean, I'm excited about it, man, but that's the good, that's the bad. Let's get into the ugly, man. I told Germ I needed these overlays done, and I didn't even want him to do this one. I didn't want him to do this one because I thought we could have a conversation prior to today that maybe things were going to start getting better. I was wrong. I was wrong. Kyle Hendricks, 12.71 ERA thus far. He has had 4 starts on the year, 17 innings pitched, 31 hits, 24 runs. Kyle, I mean, the professor, man. This is a Cy Young caliber pitcher in 2016. This is the guy who started Game 7. I mean, a World Series champ, the last remaining piece of the 2016 World Series core. I love you, baby. I got love for this man forever. Thank you. Thank you for everything. But it's been 8 years. Ben Brown looks great. Javier Assad, the ass man, looks great. Cade Horton's on the rise in Double-A right now. Jordan Wick, Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele, Jamison Tyone. These guys are wheeling and dealing. I can't just hold on to you because you won a World Series for us 8 years ago. Just like Jason Hayward in 2022. It was unfortunate. It's one of those things where it's like, man, I love Jay Hay, but like I can't play you. I can't. And it's I think you're at a point right now. Jameson Tyone comes back tonight. Justin Steele comes back in May. I'm not bringing down Javier Assad or Ben Brown. I'm not putting one of those guys in the bullpen. Listen, you're either going to get the Jay Hay treatment where you're sure you're on the roster, but you're not playing. You're not good enough to go to the bullpen. You can't throw over 90 miles an hour. You're not painting corners. Yeah, I mean, you either have to send him to the minors or you DFA him. It's really what it comes down to. And I hate to say that. Everybody says, oh, he's off to a slow start. He always figures it out. I don't care. Listen, here's me as a Cubs fan, being completely honest. 23 years on this earth, I've been a Cubs fan. Let me tell you something. I don't care if you get off to a slow start. What have you done for me lately? That's what this city prides itself on. Kyle Hendricks, 12.70 plus ERA in 4 starts. Oh, but he's off to a slow start. You got 2 guys who are under 25 years old in Javier Assad and Ben Brown who just got to the league, and they're not off to a slow start. They're wheeling and dealing. So if it comes down to it, yeah, you can go and take your slow start and take that shit, pack up your bags, and go to Des Moines, Iowa, and go figure it out over there with Patrick Wisdom. Go ahead then. I'm good, bro. I'm good on that. Like, I don't like that excuse of like, yeah, just keep him out there and let him figure it out. Fuck that. Respectfully. We're not doing No. For what? What is the point of keeping Kyle Hendricks in the starting rotation because hopefully eventually he's going to figure it out? Why are you bringing down Ben Brown or Javier Assad? Yes, man. When Justin Steele and Jameson Tyone come back because he won a World Series for you 8 years ago? It is a what have you done for me lately league, period. Albert Pujols went through it. David Ortiz went through it. So many legends have gone through the same thing. Not everybody gets to ride off in the sunset, period. And we know that. The Cubs didn't even offer Kyle Schwarber an $8 million arbitration deal. They traded Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez in the middle of the season. They told Jason Hayward, you're so bad, you can be on the roster to finish the 2022 season, but you're not playing. And then they told him, we'll pay you to get out of here. Like, let's be real. They do not do right by everybody, and rightfully so. That's no shot at the Cubs. That's no shot at Jed or Carter Hawkins. That's just what it is. That's the business. It is a what have you done for me now era. That's what it is. Like, this is a whole new core. We're trying to win ball games. I'm trying to see the development of our top prospects, top 100 prospects in all of baseball, see if they can really hack it at the big league level. And they're missing starts or they're coming out of the pen in situations where they don't want to come in because Kyle Hendricks gets the honor. Miss me with that bullshit, bro. I'm over that. I'm over that. We are not good. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, there's no way. There is no way that I'm letting that slide. So yeah, I expect when Justin Steele gets back for Kyle Hendricks to unfortunately get DFA'd. I hate to say that. I really do hate to say that, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But the Cubs tip off tonight, 6:40 start, going to be a rainy one against Jazz Chisholm Jr. We have Tim Anderson back in the Shy for the first time since the Chicago White Sox let him go. Going to be exciting to see him in Wrigley Field. First time I actually get to root for the guy because he's been a White Sox his whole career. You hate to see it. And it's going to be exciting, man. I'm excited. Jameson Tyone gets to start his first start of the season for the Chicago Cubs tonight. 6:40 start against the Miami Marlins. Make sure you tune in because we're going live throughout the entire game. We're going to be doing a pregame and postgame live. We're going to be giving our lineups in a little bit. They're going to be coming out. Craig Counsell likes to make me wait till the last minute to give out the lineups. So make sure you hit that follow button. Check out the Shy Kid podcast on TikTok and Instagram or on Give Us a Shot Network. And give us a shot. Hit that like, hit that follow button, subscribe on all social media platforms. If you check our bio right here, you can go see all the links to all the different social media platforms that we are on. We cover WNBA, NBA playoffs, We have MLB, NFL, NHL. So much stuff is going on, covering the Masters, and we even covered OJ Simpson's passing away, which was crazy. But with that being said, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I am Mike Hughes, aka the Shy Kid. Check y'all out later. Peace. Go Cubs, baby.